Story 1. Cowardice. I did not want someone else to have to deal with all my belongings. I hope that things will get better. Story 2. A professor noticed that I had gone from straight A's to basically failing and held me after the rest of the class had been released from the virtual call to figure out what was happening. This happened in 2020. I tried lying but finally admitted that I had a plan and was going to act on it in the next few days. I had already written my goodbye letter and settled almost everything I needed to. She called a wellness check on me, and I started speaking to a therapist and getting on antidepressants. If she had not noticed how badly I was struggling, there is a good chance I would not be here. Story 3. I do not want to survive a botched suicide. I am already hemiplegic and permanently disabled from a hemorrhagic stroke. I do not want to be worse off than I already am. Story 4. I think about it from time to time, but I have a condition that if I am going to harm myself, I have to liquidate everything and buy a cruise first. I have never been on a cruise. So when things get really bad, I look at websites offering cruises. I reason with myself, you want to harm yourself, but you won't even spend $3,000 on a cruise? How does that make sense? Because harming yourself is a much bigger step than buying a cruise. Story 5. My cat came to give me a paw when I was on the edge of the balcony ready to jump. I believe he saved me. Story 6. The pain I would have caused my family and children is unbearable. The demons might be in my head and talking nonstop, but I would rather they be in my head than theirs. Story 7. My dog, my companion of 2 years and my faithful friend. My mother never liked him, and my father could not keep him because he is a medium-sized dog, a Siberian husky, and lives in an apartment. Story 8. The hospital and the thought of my child. I had already taken 2 boxes of pills, plus random pills I found around the house and half a bottle of wine. I started thinking about my child while I was giving up, then suddenly picked up my phone and called the ambulance. I never acted on those thoughts again after that. I experienced tremors and a sense of lightheadedness for over 2 months afterward. It was an intense experience. Story 9. Not wanting to die uncool. I was 16 and realized I had never drank, gotten high, or even had sex. 16-year-old me did not want to die uncool or as a loser. I was also questioning my faith at the time and did not think God allowed any of that in heaven, so if I wanted to experience any of it, I would have to stay alive. Story 10. I've been lonely and suicidal for most of my adulthood, post-adolescent life, if I'm completely honest. Every day felt like a mission to plan how to stay alive and not find a bottle of pills to fill myself with. For walls and confinement were all I ever craved. I'm currently in a transition period. I'm almost the lightest I've been since I was 15. I'm 28 now. I'm working on aiding my chronic insomnia holistically, not medically. I have a routine where I actively set goals, find motivation, make plans, and create a roadmap for everything. It feels as though the past me died but left the good in me to blossom and the bad to decompose. To answer your question, in my case it felt very random, something I just snapped out of. That was after multiple suicide attempts, running away from home and being found, a decade of dysthymia, and cognitive impairment. It also feels as though my internal state rejuvenated completely and I am reborn. While I remember what happened, I feel completely different, as though it took place in a previous life or a previous dimension of some sort. I think, in the case of individuals like myself, being in the depths of deep depression and suicidal thoughts usually renders things differently. You begin embracing what is true to yourself without any external opinions or fears. Your barriers are lifted emotionally as well as mentally, so there is no filter or pause before you decide to act. Everything you ever wanted to do slowly unravels and begins to manifest. You view this experience of life as a video game, one where you disregard everything that held you back, everything you feared. Or, you either unfortunately succeed in taking your own life. God forbid nobody does this. The truth is, and I am sure this is universally known, the majority of us, when in that state, do not want to take our lives. We do not want to abort this unique experience we all share where we can contribute something to society and leave our mark. We want to live and be content. But our chemicals, our state of mind, do not allow this. The only way I can describe it is like A completely foreign language you have never heard before being spoken to you. In this scenario, telling someone suicidal not to kill themselves. With patience, love, careful encouragement, people, activities, and hobbies, you can contribute and be the reason someone didn't kill themselves that day and instead chose life. Being kind costs absolutely nothing but carries the value of everything. If anyone here is struggling or needs support, I can relate to you. You can direct message me, and hopefully if there is a lot of response, we can try setting something up on Discord where I can accommodate multiple people. I, along with a few others, am willing to help out. Stay safe, everyone. Story 11. For a long time, it was because I failed my first attempt and I did not want to fail again. Then it was life circumstances, and I did not want to negatively affect anyone else. Now, during one of the worst years of my life, it is because I told someone and now I cannot, because if I do, they will feel guilty for not doing more to help me, and I will not do that to them. Story 12. I saw my mother break at the thought of having to say goodbye to her children this way, and swore that no matter how bad life gets, I would never let my mother bury me. Story 13. I don't know, to be honest. This year, I hate to admit it, but I thought about it once or twice. My best friend was out indefinitely with a bad broken leg, and school was very difficult. I vividly remember thinking about jumping. I was never going to go through with it, but it was definitely something I was thinking about. I remember walking into my safe teacher's classroom with the phrase, "Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem," and deciding to stay. I am currently not suicidal and am doing well. Story 14. My old Labrador. He would not have anyone to take care of him. He kept me alive for almost 12 years. He passed away not that long ago. Thanks to him, I am not in that state anymore and I am still alive today. I love him and miss him every day. Story 15. My husband happened to stay home from work that day. I was planning to end my life in the back shed with our gun. I thought that if I put a trash bag over my head tightly and stayed outside the house, it could help with the cleanup. Instead, I realized I couldn't do it while he was home and broke down crying. 3 years later, I am still battling, but I have a child now and I am determined to be here, so she does not have to go through what I experienced growing up. Story 16. First attempt. The paramedics arrived too soon. I let them know in very strong words that I was not happy about their presence. One paramedic told me I only had about 10 minutes left, so if they had arrived 10 minutes later, there would be nothing they could do. I reacted very strongly, screaming through tears and snot. "You couldn't have just left me alone for 10 more minutes?" I forgot to mention that I was very drunk. I had tried drinking an entire fifth of tequila, hoping to get alcohol poisoning. Second attempt. It was my significant other at the time. Normally, he stayed up very late playing Xbox, but that night he came to bed earlier than usual. He saw my letter first, then the empty bottle of Benadryl and called an ambulance. The last thing I remember was him trying to wake me up and shaking the empty bottle in my face while on the phone with emergency services, asking, "How much of this did you take?" Third attempt. It was my family. Although I don't talk to them much, before every attempt so far, I had sent text messages to my family that simply said, "I love you." My stepmom saw the text and called for a welfare check. Sure enough, I had already written my goodbyes and taken 2 bottles of Unisom. I don't remember anything from that time except being told that when I woke up in the hospital from a coma, I had been out for 2 weeks. I then spent more time after discharge in an adult group home and psychiatric ward. I was there for weeks until completing the program and being able to go home. I have not had an attempt since 2020, but I very recently came close to another one. A few weeks ago, I wrote my letter and bought what I needed, but I have not gone through with it. It honestly feels reassuring to have the option, so I always know there is a way out. That knowledge alone has made a world of difference in my mood compared to how I was feeling before. I am hanging in there day by day, hoping I never feel the need to use them. Story 17. My family. My whole life feels like I am drowning. Just when I am about to run out of air, I am pulled up for a breath, only to be thrown back in again over and over. I remember a friend in high school asking me what my goal was. I told her, "Once I make it, I will give everything to my family, then take my own life." Still the plan. Maybe that is why life never lets me make it. Story 18, many things, knowing there are still things I want to see and do. The hurt will fade even though it is painful. Story 19, I cannot take it back once I do something like that, so I am going to try my best to fix the problems I am dealing with before going to the last resort, even if fixing my problems is very difficult. Story 20, it felt selfish knowing how much it would hurt my friends and family, and that life would probably get better. I would not feel stuck like this forever. I felt there was more I could do to change my feelings, so I did. It was not easy, but it was worth it. Story 21. When I was younger, I took handfuls of pills and ran outside. A police officer saw me as I was passing out, and I ended up having my stomach pumped and placed on a psychiatric hold. As I got older and had children, the fear of them having no one to protect them became my motivation. Every day I push myself out of bed for them. The reason I breathe is for them. I also have 2 cats and 2 guinea pigs. I have 6 lives that depend on me. Having these lives keeps me going. Who will protect them if I am gone? My children can be difficult at times, but they love me, so I have to keep going. I love my children unconditionally and do not expect it back because it is my job to love them, not theirs to love me. No one will protect them, give their life for them, or have their backs like I will. I am all they have. Also, my animals love me the way I love them. I have had them since they were babies. This is what stops me from giving up. I make sure my blood relatives cannot have my daughter, knowing how sick they are and how they treat females, and how they would influence my son negatively. The system will not protect them. This is what keeps me going. I love my children and my animals more than anything, and they give me my reason to live. My advice is to get an animal, or actually 2. Once you have those lives and the unconditional love you can only get from an animal, it helps. Do not have children for this reason. Children are a big responsibility, take so much from you, and are very stressful. It is just that animals helped me have a reason to live. Animals give you unconditional love. They are lives that depend on you too. I had children before I had animals. I wish I had gotten animals first. Maybe I would not have tried to harm myself so much. Also, my grandmother found these supplements, which are not medications, 5-hydroxytryptophan, which helps a lot. I refuse medications. I was on 7 different medications at once as a youngster. I hated it. I was a zombie. I twitched, trembled, zoned out, and wanted to end my life even more. Story 22. Tried once and failed with lots of medications. My friends and sister were so worried seeing me in the hospital. I do think about it again from time to time, but I would feel really guilty putting them through it again. Story 23. I could not tie the rope tight enough around my neck to support my weight. I was 13, and my father had died from cancer the year before. Story 24. The idea of hurting my daughter and parents kept me from taking my life. I had witnessed a suicide, and the only thing I thought was that I did not have to be as many floors up as I had thought to do it. Story 25. Cowardice and looking at the situation from others' perspectives. I lost my sister a year ago, and everything felt dead to me. I wanted to have a successful life for her because she was a sickle cell patient, and I wanted the best for her. My mom and I live paycheck to paycheck. I have tried various ways of making money at home as a teenager, but nothing worked out long-term. Getting an actual job is complicated because I do not have a license, which I was supposed to get months ago, but it did not happen. I still have my mom, and I am her best chance at a good life. I still have someone I know deserves everything. Story 26. 3 police officers, one holding each wrist and the third with her hand on my neck, where I was bleeding profusely. Story 27. The only thing that keeps me going each day is how sad my mother would be if something were to happen to me, or how much she would cry knowing that I gave up. My father, the love of her life, died struggling with alcoholism and left us in debt during his final years in 2021. My older brother is following in his footsteps. She barely knows how clinically depressed I am. Although I seek professional help, she is the reason I get through my toughest moments and fight my intrusive thoughts to survive each day. Story 28. I am not brave enough to do it. The moment of death scares me, as if experiencing it. After all, I am still curious about the future in my life. Additionally, my twin brother died 6 days after our birth, and I also nearly died. I cannot hurt my mother like this, even though I dislike her for certain things. Story 29. A horse helped me come back to life. I would never have been here today if not for him. Now I am doing everything I can to be the best version of myself to honor his memory, as he passed away on June 3rd this year. Story 30. Firstly, my family literally chased me down and stopped me from jumping. Secondly, my daughter, once she came into my life, just the thought of having to force my husband to inform her about what might have happened to me breaks my heart. The idea of her having to grow up without a mother is a devastating thought. Story 31. The assistance of mental health professionals, which the Trump administration and the Republican Party significantly reduced. Story 32. Realizing that ending my life over a trivial matter would let him win again, I decided I would live out of spite. Now I live for the love of myself. Story 33. Having that glimmer of hope that I will have a future I have always dreamt of someday. Now, 9 years later, I will be starting my new job as a video editor, my ultimate dream job. Story 34. Nothing. I just realized it would be fruitless and give me nothing new or better than what I have, so I never thought about it again. I learned to appreciate everything and everyone around me. Story 35. It's just plain stupid. Everyone will expire at some point. Why not just wait for it and enjoy the ride? It's painful, yes, at the moment, but you just need to cry it out. People can't bear the pain. I know, but the pain is not negative in any way. It is a motivator for change. If you want to feel better, just do something. No one can help but yourself. Story 36. Never thought of taking my own life. I am sure I do not have the courage to do it. Story 37. My children are still very young. During the last pandemic, I experienced anxiety and depression. I lost everything. On the same day, I was laid off from work. I also discovered that my partner had been cheating on me for 3 years. I left him immediately and returned to my home in the province. My children, who are very smart, give me the reason to fight back against life's challenges. Story 38. Well, I am guessing it is not the answer you were looking for, but it is unfortunately the case for me. I failed 3 times. Story 39. The prospect of moving to the United States. Every country has its problems, and so does the United States, but it is much better than my home country ever was for me. Story 40. My mom. I don't think she deserves in this life to see her son in a coffin because he took his own life. My mom loved me very much, and I happen to have all this darkness. Because of it, I live day in and day out thinking about how I could make up for myself so I don't cause others pain, especially my mom. Story 41. I tell myself that all the time, just fear of what my family and friends would think of me for some reason. Story 42. Around 30 years ago, I was a very lonely teenager. I did not have any friends. My parents were going through a rough patch themselves and did not have a lot of quality time with me. In fact, I did not like them much. I thought of taking my life, but I knew it was something too definitive. The option of just hanging on and seeing if something improved was, if not better, at least easier. I was too lazy to figure out how to do it effectively. Also, every Saturday we had family gatherings, and I had a particular uncle who would always say something funny. I wanted to know what his joke was going to be this week, and the next one, and the next one. Story 43. I was 18 at the time, incredibly alone. My brother, who was 8, sat down to talk about video games with me. I was ready to go that evening, but just sitting down with my annoying little brother was enough for me to reconsider my entire life. We are still close to this day, 25 years later, and he has no idea what he did for me. Story 44. Chemical resistance. I took 4 times my normal dose, which was already high for my weight. I did not die, just came for 4 hours, then leveled out. I went to work and decided that death was not for me. I started living. Story 45. My cat started meowing because the door was closed, and I realized that no one would be there to look after him. I am in a much better place now, all thanks to my cat. Story 46. My son told me he was proud of me and gave me the biggest hug to date. I live every day being the best I can be for him now. Story 47. I walked into a giant metal statue that stood in the middle of a bridge I was crossing. I had been reading a text that made everything worse. It hurt, but it knocked some sense into me long enough to get to a hospital. It took over 10 years of therapy afterward to get myself back on the right track. Story 48. I set a deadline when I was 17 to end things by the end of the year. My friends at the time told me to go to the guidance counselor because she would do one-on-one sessions with teens who felt bad. She ended up saving my soul. I am forever grateful to her. Story 49. The realization that there are infinitely more people who deserve to die more than I do. There are also probably people who would be smug or even glad if I took my own life. So, in essence, I am alive out of spite. Story 50. I found my friend attempting to take their own life. They are happy and thriving now, thankfully, but I cannot forget the feeling in my heart when I found them. It was over 5 years ago, and whenever I feel I am getting close to the edge, that feeling creeps over me. I would never want someone else to feel that way because of me. Story 51. I supported my boyfriend by just listening and believing him. It didn't magically resolve his problem, but it's nice having someone to talk to. If you are having negative thoughts and want to express them, we are here. Story 52. I never really considered the idea of leaving this world by my own hand. Even though life is tough, politically challenging, and the media often portrays everything is wrong in the world nearly every day, there is more to it. That's depressing to hear, right? You might think, why would I consent to live in such a world? You would be both right and wrong at the same time. Nobody ever asked to be brought into life. That was, in essence, a selfish desire of our parents, just as it would be a selfish desire of ours to have children of our own. And while there is misery out there, whether on a personal scale or a social scale, there is also hope. The world rests on a fragile balance. Where there is nothingness, there is opportunity. Where there is emptiness of one thing, there is fullness of another. Where there is darkness, there is light. You may not be born in the right place at the right time. You do not choose your parents, your family, or your childhood to an extent. But there is one thing no one can take from you: the right to choose what you become. I believe I am very lucky. I still have most of my family, I have loyal friends, I am educated, and most importantly, I have purpose. Not all people have this kind of luck. I won't simply say, seek help. While it is a first step toward improvement, it is not always the complete response to something deeper, more intimate and personal. But I implore you, before you do the unthinkable, ask yourself this: who am I? And what do I want to accomplish? Some of us had abusive parents, were or still are bullied, are desperate for a job while there is nothing available, and have student loans to pay off. It's tough, yes, but never impossible. Step back from the edge of that building. Lay down the knife or gun that could do irreparable damage. Cry, release your tears when you need to. Express the anger you have within on anything safe. Release anything that holds you back. And when you do, maybe you'll find the answers you seek. Because whenever you are at your life is worth living. Always. It's up to you now. Do what you must. Story 53. Only the lack of a surefire or painless method. Nothing scared me more than agonizing for a long time or messing it up somehow and ending up half a vegetable. Glad I did not. It has been 7 years since my last suicidal ideation. Now I live with my amazing fiancée whom I am marrying in a few months. I have my dream job. I am surrounded by people who love me. I am an active and important part of my community. I have changed countless people, and I have grown to be even proud of who I ended up becoming. It was a good realization I could just drop it. Drop everyone and everything that was hurting me and just start over. My road to healing started with selfishness. Story 54. I just couldn't find it in my heart to be selfish enough to do that to my parents, grandmother, sister, and nieces. They would have suffered so much. I was developing that selfishness when the hospital realized I was actually serious and they put me in isolation. About 3 years later, I went to the funeral of my dad's cousin, who had died by suicide. Imagining myself in that coffin, with my family around me speaking at the podium, was too much to bear. I'm glad I stayed. For them if not for me. Story 55. knowing how it would affect my very little sisters when they got older and knowing I would not be able to help them through hard times. Story 56. I was planning to take my test and then do it during the weekend so no one would think to check on me. My favorite character in a game got an update announced, and I saw it when I finished my test. I got so excited that I kind of forgot. Story 57. When my uncle passed away by taking his own life, I realized that many people loved and cared about him, which I did not know before. We will all miss him forever. I cannot put that pain on anyone else. I know there are people who care about me and would miss me if I were gone, even on days when I thought I was all alone. I do not think like that anymore. I have a great family, great friends, and a loving boyfriend I would do anything for. I cannot imagine leaving my life and hurting them so badly. Story 58. Ironically, depression makes it difficult to take action to end your life when you are so depressed that you cannot get out of bed. Story 59. I got a cat. I always wanted a cat, and I told myself that I would kill myself after I got a cat if I really wanted to die. In conclusion, the cat saved my life. Story 60. I genuinely hope everyone in this thread knows that I am so proud of them. People truly do not understand how difficult it is to pull yourself out of a very dark place. Most people cannot escape it, but you all did. You should do something that makes you happy every day because everyone deserves to find who they really are and enjoy life to the fullest. Story 61. Nothing. I do my best for it and go my own way. God helps me, and step by step I go where I want. Story 62. My daughter. This is hard though. She is 9 now, and I know that once she is grown up, it will be time for me to go. I am scared of trying to carry on for the next 10 years. Story 63. Godzilla. No, seriously, Godzilla. I took a step back, thought about the things I love, and went down to watch King of the Monsters. Story 64. My dog. She scratched the door until my mother noticed something unusual. She always helped me with night terrors due to complex post-traumatic stress disorder, depressive episodes, and social anxiety. This dog is the reason I am still here. Story 65. I was suicidal for about 5 years until I gradually accepted that I would die one day for reasons beyond my control. Therefore, there was no need to rush the process. I am not religious, and I decided to try being alive and conscious while I can. Choosing to wait for my eventual death gave me enough time to find a purpose in life and many reasons to be happy to be alive. Story 66. Spiting my abuser, proving them wrong, and proving me right. I would stand in the mirror, amp myself up, and say things like I am not ready to give up yet, among other things. Standing in the mirror and saying these things to myself made it feel like someone else was telling all this to me, even if I was the one saying it. Story 67. My partner took her life in January. While I don't judge her, nor feel any anger, I actually feel deepest compassion and empathy, as hers was a long road and I could see how exhausted she was. It has shown me firsthand what I would put the people I love through if I chose to leave the world. I recognize that for those at the point of suicide, nothing matters more than not suffering anymore, but I believe that living on this side of things, and being someone who has always tended to put others first, means I will never again reach a point where I'm writing letters to say goodbye. I just couldn't do it to those around me. I couldn't do it to those who would have to find me. I don't want to traumatize the people I love, and that is what will keep me alive. Story 68. I could not come up with a way to do it that was both relatively painless and effective. Every method is either extremely unpleasant or unlikely to work. Story 69. As a teenager, I was in the hospital. Now, I have fallen in love and we made a promise. We will live until we are old and wrinkly, and then even longer. Story 70. A mushroom trip. No, really. I was ticking off items from my bucket list, and taking mushrooms happened to be one of them. After that experience, I felt genuinely good for the first time in about 15 years. Story 71. My children. During separation from my wife, I cannot keep my head above water. I couldn't do that to the children, and I hate myself for even having let it cross my mind. It does not make things easier either way. Story 72. I have multiple attempts on record, but one day I thought to myself, if this is the only time I get to experience life, I might as well stay and see what happens. Now happily engaged with my own house and pets, I am the happiest I have ever been. I think back on those times as just being naive and dumb. I always laughed when people told me things would get better. I also learned about absurdism, and that was strangely comforting for me. Story 73. I stopped caring about other people, especially strangers, and started being selfish. I let go of much of the guilt and pain that was weighing me down. Story 74. My family would be devastated, and I always think I am going to die anyway, and I only live once, so I might as well continue surviving and see what happens. Also, I am afraid it would fail, and I do not want to live with injuries or have my parents handle the burden since I am still 18 and do not make my own money. Story 75. My son, I was too stubborn to let his father raise him alone. Also, obviously, I did not want to hurt him like that. Story 76. My wife and son. I saw the damage it caused just by telling them I had contemplated it. I live with that every day. Consumes me with guilt. Story 77. My pet birds would be very sad and lonely if I died, because I am their favorite person in the world. Story 78. My loved ones. Just the thought of them suffering because of me for the rest of their lives hurts so much. Story 79. My ex looked me in the eyes right before leaving and told me they would hate me if I died because then we could not get back together. I did not want to get back together, but I did not want them to hate me, so I called an ambulance for myself. Our cat kept me awake until they arrived. They got rid of that cat right after I moved out. I have no interest in or contact with them now, but I am glad I called. I have friends and freedom now. Story 80. I was considering it to prevent others from hurting me more, but what stopped me was that I couldn't let them win. Story 81. Despite everything, I am thinking about how cruel people can be and how I cannot let them win. I believe staying alive is a form of rebellion. On one occasion, when I called the suicide hotline, the woman was so incredibly rude and unhelpful that I snapped out of it out of anger. Story 82. My mom has already lost one son, so losing another would just destroy what's left of her. It would hurt my partner so much after all the time we spent together to throw it all away like that. If I failed, I could never look at either of them again. My therapist also said that if I try to take my own life, I can't see them anymore. And I guess my last reason is I want to see what the One Piece is. I've been watching for so long. I'm not going to waste that time. It's a shame I don't really have friends, but I'm learning to cope with that, I think. Story 83. Lack of a way for a quick, painless death and the fear of making a mistake and ending up a vegetable or paralyzed. Story 84. My mom and mostly nature and animals. It's strange, I don't know. I think about not wanting to exist anymore a lot, but without actually being serious or making any plans. I think about all the garbage I just cannot handle anymore. But then the creeping thoughts of what I love about life seep in and take over. Thankfully, I'm in love with plants, trees, and the weather. I'm fascinated with the nature of animals and watching how they interact with us or just among themselves. I then think about how I get to show my son the really cool things about life. It's enough and strong enough to take over the bad. But I do sit in depression a lot. I'm not happy right now. I think I'd be happier by myself and my son, or just not being a burden on anyone and being alone. It's hard to shake. I have someone that loves me. He will be okay. Story 85, because I am scared of it too, and things would be a massacre. Also, there is my job to do by helping people in need. I feel like I have a role in this world. Story 86. The only thing that keeps me at bay is the fact that after 3 attempts, God has not accepted me. All 3 were fairly recent. I don't know why it's not my time, but apparently, it is not. Story 87. Scared of what comes after. Scared of the attempt being halfway successful and having to continue to live with more trouble than I started with. I do not want my parents or brothers to go through that. Now, I do not want my boyfriend to go through that either. Story 88. The debt my ex accrued. I wanted to end it the night I found out he was cheating on me. I had given everything to a man who hated me so deeply in the end because it was easier for his ego to hate me than accept the shame for his actions over time. But I couldn't because I owed them $30,000 from their supporting us through his tantrum year when he refused to find work. I had already hurt my family for choosing to love a man who never loved me. I couldn't be so selfish as to leave them with that. So I decided to pay them off first and hoped I would find the will to keep going by the time I did. It's been a few months since, and I am still depressed and hurt over who he was and what he did. But I have some good things ahead. I am currently studying for my driver's license finally since my grandma plans to buy me a car when I graduate. I have some jobs lined up for next year after meeting some people through networking or on dates. I met a few great guys who have been helping cheer me up and spend time with me while I get my feet under me. I am finding that while I am lonely and miss the good parts of my ex, the abuse and constant stress were overwhelming me and caused many issues that cleared up pretty fast when he was gone. I feel healthier and can do more than I ever thought I could. I am rediscovering who I am and finding myself laughing, dancing, and relaxing more than I ever have before. I finally don't have the weight of caring for someone on my shoulders. I just have to care for myself, and it is a wonderful feeling to receive love from myself instead of his endless misery. Now, I don't think I will ever end up in such a dark place again because I will never let someone else have that many chances to hurt me again. Story 89. The fact that I failed to do it. I tried, did not succeed. Then I went to a rehabilitation center for the brain and found out that I did not need to hate myself and that the sadness could be redirected. Saved my life. Now, 15 years later, I am spending my days with my son, thinking that if I had succeeded, he would not be here. Story 90. I tried several times. In the end, what stopped me was realizing that my situation was something I created for myself. The external damage and the people who caused it were long gone. Only my own actions remained, and those actions were hurting me and causing me to be alone. I thought that since it was so hard to actually do it and I was tired of trying and failing, and the aftereffects were the worst, I would try to change myself. It didn't work at the beginning, but eventually, it started to feel less hard. The thoughts of harming myself also stopped. I am not sure if it works for most people, but for me, it did. Story 91. I spent 5 long years in mental hospitals, which left me with severe medical trauma and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. A month after my last hospital stay, I had an appointment with a doctor, a physical specialist, to schedule surgery. She asked how I was when I arrived, and I started crying in her office. She gave me a hug. After not being treated like a human being for 5 years, that hug healed a huge part of me. I will never forget her kindness. She gave me the strength to keep fighting by restoring my humanity and dignity. Story 92. My boyfriend reminded me how much I mean to everyone around me. Even though my dad didn't want me at the time, this is what I thought. I have since talked to him, and we have a better relationship. It is not that he doesn't want me. It is his wife who is not my mom. There are plenty of people who do want me and who need me. Story 93. My family. Also, the thought that the few people who still stand by me would be hurt the most. It is a lie people tell themselves that those they want to think about their mistakes will care. They have already turned their backs. Story 94. When all your subscriptions are about video games and these kinds of posts pop up. Facebook and Reddit these days. Story 95. At the time, I felt needed for something and used books to intellectualize everything that seemed unstable to me. Story 96. The fact is that if I do it, then they win. Do not let the bastards get you down. I am here for sheer spite and grit at this point, and maybe the hope of a better tomorrow. I am afraid I will miss something good. Story 97. There are no guarantees I will not become someone else who has it worse. I know it is an inevitability, but I am not quite ready yet. Maybe in a few years' time I will be, however. Story 98. Refusing to go quietly into that cold night, also knowing one of my parents would spend the rest of their days wondering if there is something they could have done to stop me. Story 99. Pregnant. I wanted to meet the child who would either make or break me. I do not know what I was worried about. I love waking up to his face with a big grin. Story 100. My father, knowing it would break him, showed me his true colors and favored my little sister over me and my other siblings. He barely spent time with me as well. Safe to say, I no longer have a reason for being alive. Story 101. My dad has dementia, and my mother may harm herself if I opt out. All I have is my little brother, and I am serving as a support to lean on and as an example. Story 102. My dad told me how much it still hurts when his brother died by suicide a few months before I was born. Story 103. The way my mother held me when she noticed something was wrong made me vomit just in time, I think. Story 104. I do not know, but it is a constant thought that I have of just ending it. I think family is the reason I have not yet. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.